Hello, this is Taylor Ellwood with Magical Experiments, and today I thought I'd talk about the topic of cultivating awareness by letting go of attachment. This is this is something I've been doing a lot of work around right now in my life. Um, I don't know, really since the summer. I came to some pivotal realizations and understandings about myself and how it was showing up in my life in a way that was really getting in the way of what I have. Um, and it was interesting because, I kind of I had to lose some things along the way in order to have the realizations that I've been having, and I think that's true. You have to the experiences that we have are experiences that teach us, if we're open to it, about the things we need to change. And if we're not open to it, we keep having those same experiences. And I would say, really, in the last few years, I've gone through some significant changes. It's been painful and hard. I mean, I've had to lose everything in a significant way in order to get to the place that I'm at now. And yet, losing everything has also been one of the most liberating experiences of my life, because it's helped me see how much I've gotten in my own way, and how much I've also sometimes let other people get in my way because I've been attached to those people. So if you're new to this channel, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell. And if you're a frequent flyer, go ahead and like it or dislike. I mean, if you want, I don't really care either way. And leave a comment. So, I mean, what does it really even mean to cultivate awareness? What does that really mean? That's a good question to ask. And it's something I've been thinking a lot about and experiencing and doing a lot of work around, especially in the last few months, because I've been doing a lot of reading around awareness and self love and other things like that. Because I've really been examining my life, and I've been examining where I've fallen short. And here's what I've come to the conclusion of. attachments Attachments are expectations, they are definitions, they are categories, they are concepts, they are ideals. They are the things that we bring into our lives with this notion of this is something I'm entitled to, this is something that I want. This is something I'm holding on to because if I get it, it will somehow make my life better than what it already is. And the truth is, it won't. The things that we hold on to, the attachments that we cling to in the forms of ideals and expectations of other things along those lines, are really just illusions. We're holding on to them so hard. And what are we really trying to hold on to? We're trying to hold on to a justification for who and what we are. This isn't to say that we shouldn't cultivate a certain awareness of specific values that we want in our lives. But what it does mean is that we should cultivate along with that awareness, along with that is an awareness of, when am I applying these values, these concepts, these definitions, all these other things, when am I applying them unfairly, perhaps, to everything else around me, because I'm trying to impose upon the world around me a specific outcome that I want. How much pressure that brings to a situation, how much it defines a situation. And you may, for a time, seemingly get what you want. But a lot of times within that, you will find a deep sense of gnawing dissatisfaction, because it won't feel quite right. I've felt this myself many times. I got something I wanted, but it didn't stick. The things that have truly stuck in my life, when they have stuck, have been things that have stuck because I let go of the attachments, the ideals, the concepts. And instead, I accepted those things as they are. I went from, this is what it should be, to what is. And I accepted what is. It didn't mean that I didn't try to change what is. I mean, you can always change what is. That change starts from within, in my opinion. Some people try to change it from without, and that's where I think the attachments and the ideals and all that stuff really get in the way, because we're trying so hard to change the world around us, but we're not changing what is within us. We're not examining those ideals, those attachments, those concepts, and saying, is this something that even has bearing on reality? Or is this something where I am trying to reach this state of mythical happiness? And I think that if I have X, Y, and Z fulfilled, X, Y, and Z will, as a result, make me happy. Might for the moment. I think one of the most interesting realizations, and I've been having it all this week, has been, I guess last week by the time some of you watch this, but really it's been all this week, has been this realization of trying very much to, I see how much I've tried to hold on to these very specific notions of how I want things to be. But what I have not done is I have not examined the actual results in the way that I wanted to, where I could say, well, here's the results that I'm getting. And how are those results mirroring what's going on with me? Realization I came to is that, and this is a great example, is that when I look at the people that have come into my life, in one way or another, what I have seen is that there is a certain level of chaos that comes with those people. And this isn't a judgment on those people, because I see that same level of chaos within myself. And I'm like, well, if there is this level of chaos here, it is like calling to like. It is a magnetic experience, one thing calling to another. I can't change those other people. I mean, I could try. I can try to impose my values, my ideals, my concepts, et cetera, on those people. I can do it all day long. I can do it till I'm blue in the face, and I will more than likely end up being frustrated most of the time, because I'm attached to a specific notion of how I want those people to show up in my life. I am not opening myself up to experiencing those people as they show up on their terms, in their way. And those terms may not be the terms that I want to deal with. And here's the beautiful thing. I have the opportunity to walk away from those terms. If that's not something I want, I can walk away. Or I can continue to or I can try to fit into their terms, which is kind of a similar thing in terms of being attached, because when you try to fit someone else's terms, it's like you're giving away your sense of self. You're giving away your identity in order to be something that isn't realistically true. I've done that before too. I've tried to be this specific type of person for this other person. I've tried to fit a specific role instead of really spending the time discovering, well, who am I? And being aware of who I am. And awareness really is a liberation of identity. It's a liberation of perspective. It's a liberation from attachments and ideals and everything else, because it's saying, well, what is? What is? It's not a judgment on anyone else. It's not a judgment on yourself. If anything, it calls upon you to forgive yourself, because you're like, okay, here's all the ways I've stumbled in my life. Here's the ways I've gotten in the way. Here's all the ways I've challenged myself and made my life harder than it had to be, and maybe made other people's lives harder than there needed to be. But this is part of this process of growth and change. Like we can say that, and here's what I can say. I don't think I can't say this for every person out there, because I think some people are just genuinely bastards and bitches. They are mean and cruel and harsh, whatever, for reasons that come from a place of maliciousness. But I think other times people may end up being harsh with you or whatever else, but they're not of genuine maliciousness. They're just coming at it from a place of, they're doing the best they can, you're doing the best you can, and it just happened like this. Instead of coming together like this, it's creating a blockage, creating an issue. And that's okay too. I mean, it just means that there's not a good fit. We want to cultivate awareness. We first and foremost have to examine our own precious notions of what we think reality ought to be. The what ifs, this should be this way, if only. All these things that we tell ourselves. If only you would do this, or if only I would, etc. And we have to be willing to forgive ourselves. I'm going to be doing a Samhain ritual, actually. I may have done it by the time some people see this video, but for the people watching it live, I haven't done it yet. But I'm going to be doing the Samhain ritual of where I'm going to be putting together a list of things I want to forgive myself for, part of my self-love practice. And at the same time, I'm going to be putting to death the concepts, the attachments, the things that I've been holding on to, and letting them go. And letting go with it the inevitable chaos that comes when you try to impose your ideals and concepts and subjectivities onto the world around you. I think that I think that's really a key point right there. We don't realize how often we get caught up in trying to impose very specific values and perspectives and ideals and subjectivities onto the world around us, and how that creates chaos for ourselves and for other people. And we don't mean to do it. I mean, sometimes somebody comes at it from the best of intentions. Like, I want to help this other person out. I want to do these other things. I'll tell you something though, and this is a harsh truth, but it's good truth. You are not qualified to solve the problems for other people. That's one of the things that I have been getting better and better at letting go of and giving away. There'll be times I'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, going through this thing, whatever else," and part of me be like, "Oh, I got the perfect solution," or "I could do this for them," or whatever. And I'm like, button that lip up, and just listen. They don't need that from you. If they needed it from you, they would ask. And if they don't ask and they do want it from you, well, that's on them. That's not you. But stop trying to fix their problems. Stop trying to solve them. You can't solve them. They can only solve themselves. And they can't solve me either. Only I can fix my problems. Only I can solve myself. We live in this culture of of people trying to fix each other. And it's part of this attachment thing where I'm going to fix you. I'm going to solve your problem. What am I really doing? I'm imposing my values, my solutions, my ideas on you because I think I know the answer to you. I think I know what you need. Well, how arrogant is that? How arrogant is that? Well, we got to do that. But here's the thing. This is where part of cultivating awareness is becoming aware of it. I mean, like, oh, I'm aware of this tendency. And then forgiving yourself for it. Now, forgiveness does not mean that you don't continue to be aware of it. No, if anything, you have to be even more aware of it because now you consciously are aware. You know, oh, I know this thing that I do. Okay. Well, now that you know it and are aware of it, forgive yourself for it for all the times that it happened before because you weren't aware. You weren't aware. You were doing the best that you could. And so this is an act of self-love to forgive ourselves of things that we were not aware of. We were trying to do the best we could. There was no maliciousness intended. There was no harm intended. There was nothing intended. If anything, we were coming at it from the place of I genuinely care about this person. But I was also coming at it from attachment to myself because I thought if this happens this way, this person will be happy and I'll be happy too, and the world will be at peace and harmony. And that wasn't true. That wasn't going to ever be true. Peace and harmony comes from within. The harder you try to make the world around you fit what you want it to be, the more the world will push back. And it will push back as hard as it needs to, and it will smack you across the face until you get it. But the more you can say, well, I am the source of my own happiness, and I can be happy with things as they are. Or if I want to change things as they are, I can make that change occur from within. And I can make the change within myself, and then the change will end up moving out into the world around me. Now, some people might say, well, what's an example of that, Taylor? How would you change things? Well, okay, give you an example. I've been living here in Eugene for a little over a year. I'm still getting to know this area. One of the things that I've been increasingly doing in the last few months is I've been like, okay, I want to get to know this area. Well, what do I need to do first? I got to change myself within first. First, I got to change myself. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I've got to be like, all right, if I want to get to know this area, I've got to show some curiosity about this area and be open to the area. And again, this isn't about me imposing my ideas about what this area should be like. No, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to connect. I'm going to start going out to things. The other night, I went to the Holt Center, which is this local center here, and I saw Scheherazade. And I did it because I wanted to get to know the area and I wanted to learn something about this area. And I'm like, wow, there's all kinds of cool events. And I felt this deep sense of happiness because I had decided to put myself out there. I changed myself. I got curious about the area. I chose to do something about it instead of holding on to, I don't know this area. I was like, well, I want to get to know this area better. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be open. I'm not going to put attachments or ideals or anything else. Instead, I'm just going to go and have some fun and do something different. And I did. I put myself out there. And so I discovered something new. And now I'm going to go to future things at the Holt Center because there's a lot of really interesting and fascinating stuff there. And I'm like, wow, I want to go do this. The biggest way that we limit ourselves is we limit ourselves through the boundaries, through the categories and things that we put ourselves under. And this is actually a lesson of Saturn because Saturn teaches us this if we are open to it. You know, people again treat Saturn as a malefic thing, but Saturn, in my experience, is not malefic. Saturn is just trying to teach you some very hard lessons to learn around how you get in your own way. And how the limits and boundaries that you are experiencing a lot of times often imposed upon you by yourself, not someone else. No one else has come along and said, well, I'm going to make you be this way. No one else has done that. Oftentimes, when we get in our own way, is because we are so caught up in trying to be in a specific outcome. We are trying to make ourselves be in the world around us. And a lot of times what ends up happening is we're so caught up in trying to fit in a certain context, a certain way, that we forget a simple truth. Who you are and how you show up is more a reflection of yourself and what is going on within you than it is with the world around you. The world around you is mirroring what is going on within you, and it is providing you a perspective. And if you're open to it, cultivate awareness, you can liberate yourself. And that liberation comes in the form of acceptance. I accept that I am where I am at. I accept that these attachments, these ideals, these categories, all these other things are actually things that I am clinging on to have a sense of control. And if I let go of that sense of control and actually be in the world around me, I will discover with curiosity and awareness what is actually available. But here's the other thing. Now I've gone to the Holt Center, using this as an example, right? Went to Holt Center. Well, now I know there's other events there. The danger that I will always have now is I'll have an expectation, right? I'll get an attachment. Well, if I go here, this will happen. I don't know though if that will happen. So each time I go, I have to go with open awareness and acceptance that whatever happens there, what is not necessarily what I want it to be, but it is what it is. And if I let go of that attachment, if I let go of that notion of what something ought to be, I will actually enjoy the experience more deeply and I will find a genuine happiness as opposed to an artificial happiness. Artificial happiness in my mind is this happiness really, well, this thing fit my expectations. It fit my attachments. So I was happy. But really, but now, each time I go, I have a heavier and heavier burden around this thing, this attachment. But if I go without attachments, if I go without expectation, I can actually enjoy the experience more richly and deeply because I'm not trying to make the experience be something it isn't. This is this is the reality of this kind of work. So share that with you with the notion too that like you're going to be doing you're going to be doing this work yourself in some form or manner, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people who watch these videos, I don't know what you do or don't do. No one really tells me. So I don't know. I have no expectations or attachments to what you do. But if you end up doing something along this line, it's going to take some work. I will say that. I didn't even say, well, Taylor, that's you setting up an expectation. I'm being realistic with you. I'm 46 years old now, and it has taken me this long to get to this point. Now, maybe somebody else will get there quicker, and hey, great if they do. More power to them. And some people do. Some people get there quicker. Some people take longer. There's somebody who may watch this and be 60 or 70 years old, and that's when it hits them and they get to that moment. Let's just celebrate the fact that they got there in the first place, whenever they got there. Let's not attribute a value to when you got to where you got to be. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you got there. You got there. And you can keep getting there. You just got to keep letting go of the attachments, letting go of the values, letting go of the notion that you're entitled to things being a certain way. You're not. You could lose it all in a moment. And how you handle that loss, as hard as it may be, will be more reflective of the attachments and the values and everything else that you have grabbed onto or let go of than anything else. And again, it's not to say that losing things is easy, because it's not. I mean, as I said, I have lost everything before. I have been to the point where I have literally been living in a situation where I have basically lost most of my material possessions, and I have been at a place of great fear and uncertainty and not knowing what would happen next and not knowing if I could even pull myself out of that situation. So I get it. I know. And I haven't, and even with all that said, I have not necessarily hit bottom as hard as some other people have. But my point being, wherever your bottom is, whatever you hit, when you let go of everything that has gotten you to that place, that's when you start to rise again. And I'll tell you one other secret here. The secret to cultivating awareness is that you cultivate love for yourself. You love yourself. You love yourself unconditionally. Now, loving yourself unconditionally doesn't mean you accept yourself unconditionally. There's always this interesting notion that people have in society. Well, if I love you unconditionally, then I will accept you the way you are. No, loving someone unconditionally just means I love them unconditionally. I love them. It doesn't mean I accept their behavior unconditionally. It's the same thing with yourself. You can love yourself unconditionally. It doesn't mean that you're giving yourself a caveat to accept your own behavior. Loving yourself unconditionally means I'm going to cultivate awareness so I can, quote unquote, so I can let go of the attachments and the things that are holding me back. And I can be more present and in the moment. And whatever ends up happening, whoever it is with, I can enjoy the experience without getting attached to what I think it ought to be. And again, I'm not going to pretend that I've got this down, okay? I don't. I'm still learning about it every single freaking day. And it is one of the hardest things I have had to learn. And it may always be hard. I don't know. It may not be. Maybe I'm attached to that hardness. I don't know. I just know that it is hard sometimes. But I'm becoming more and more okay with it and aware of it, because I'm just like, well, that's the way it is. I can't change who I am. I can't change the way these things are without being willing to cultivate awareness. without being willing to let go of the attachments. So I will let go of the attachments each and every moment that I can. And in the moments that I find myself caught up in it, well, I'll forgive myself for that because I probably wasn't aware of it at the time. But as I become more and more aware of it, it'll get easier and easier. Yes, that's the answer. It does get easier, actually, when I think about it. So I share this all with you from a place of love and gratitude and really from a place of deep awareness. And I share this too with the understanding, really, that fundamentally we are who and what we are. And when we can accept that, that's when we change our relationship with the world. And that's when we change our relationship with magic as well. And I'll talk about that next time in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Halloween weekend.